The ships came from nowhere like black shadows against the morning sun. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth Defense Station Alpha and watched his world change forever. The alien vessels were massive things that made human battleships look like toys. Each one stretched for miles across the sky and blocked out entire city blocks with their dark hulls. Jake had been an admiral for 12 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His communication officer turned to him with wide eyes and said the enemy fleet numbered in the hundreds. Every major city on Earth now had alien ships hanging over them like storm clouds that would never pass. Down on the surface, General Lisa Kane was running through the halls of the Pentagon when the first energy beam struck. The building shook, and dust fell from the ceiling as she grabbed her radio and started giving orders. Her voice stayed calm even as the world ended around her. She told her commanders to activate all defense systems and get civilian populations to the underground shelters that had been built for nuclear war but would now face something far worse. The aliens had been watching Earth for months through small scout ships that humans never detected. War Commander Thexville of the Zelkarian Empire sat in his command center and studied the reports about this primitive world. His species had conquered 47 different planets, and Earth was supposed to be the easiest yet. The humans had barely reached their own moon, and their weapons used simple chemical explosives instead of energy weapons. This should take less than a week, but something was wrong from the very first hour. Human ships that should have been destroyed in seconds kept fighting even after taking direct hits. Human pilots were changing their attack patterns in the middle of battle and somehow avoiding weapons that had never missed before. Thexville watched his tactical display and frowned as human defenders did things that made no sense according to his species' understanding of warfare. In the underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alex Turner was working frantically to understand the alien technology. His team had managed to recover pieces from a crashed alien scout ship 6 months earlier, but had made little progress until now. With invasion ships filling the sky, Alex suddenly found himself making connections that had eluded him for months. He looked at the alien power cores and somehow knew how they worked, even though the principles should have taken years to understand. His colleague, Dr. Maria Santos, was listening to alien communications and making discoveries that frightened her. The aliens were not just surprised by human resistance, they were genuinely confused by it. Their language had no words for the kind of rapid adaptation humans were showing. Maria realized that Earth was not just under attack, but was facing an enemy that had never encountered anything like humanity before. The bombing of major cities began at noon Greenwich time. New York went first as energy beams carved through skyscrapers like they were made of paper. London followed 20 minutes later, then Tokyo and Moscow and Berlin. Millions of people died in the first hour, but something strange happened to those who survived. Instead of running in panic, they began organizing themselves with military precision that impressed even experienced soldiers. Captain Pete Williams had been on leave in Chicago when the attack started. He found himself leading a group of civilians through the ruined streets, but these were not ordinary refugees. A businessman was somehow coordinating supply lines using principles he should never have known. A schoolteacher was treating wounded people with medical knowledge she had never studied. Children as young as 10 were spotting alien patrol patterns and predicting their movements with accuracy that made Pete's military training seem basic. The strangest thing was how quickly everyone was learning. Pete watched the mechanic look at a piece of crashed alien technology for 30 minutes, then build a working energy weapon from spare car parts. He saw a librarian decode alien writing systems in a few hours, even though human linguists had been working on similar problems for months without success. Every human seemed to be operating at levels far beyond what should have been possible. By evening, the alien commanders were sending urgent reports back to their homeworlds. The conquest of Earth was not going according to plan. Human military units were learning alien tactics faster than they could be implemented. Human scientists were reverse engineering alien technology almost instantly. Most disturbing of all, human civilians were showing combat effectiveness that rivaled elite alien soldiers despite having no military training. War Commander Vexville stood before his tactical display and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. His forces had destroyed most major human cities and killed millions of the primitive creatures, but somehow the remaining humans seemed stronger rather than weaker. They were adapting to alien weapons and tactics in real time. They were building new defenses from the wreckage of their old ones. They were turning every defeat into a lesson that made them more dangerous. The reports from ground commanders were even more disturbing. Human soldiers were not just learning to use captured alien weapons, they were improving them. Human engineers were making alien technology work better than its original designers had intended. Human medics were treating injuries that should have been fatal using improvised techniques that violated known biological principles. As the first day of invasion ended, Jake Morrison looked out at the burning cities below his space station and realized something that would have seemed impossible. That morning, Earth was losing the battle, but humanity was winning something else entirely. They were becoming something new, and the aliens who had come to conquer them were about to discover that some species could not be broken, only transformed into something far more dangerous than they had ever been before. 6 months had passed since the alien ships first appeared, and Earth had become a world that neither side recognized anymore. Commander Zara Phillips crawled through the ruins of what used to be downtown Denver and marveled at what she saw around her. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving in ways that defied everything the scientific community had believed about their species. The underground resistance networks had grown beyond anything the aliens could have predicted. What started as desperate groups of survivors had evolved into a sophisticated military organization that operated with precision that impressed even veteran soldiers. Zara watched as a 12-year-old girl coordinated supply drops using communication methods she had invented herself. The child spoke 3 alien languages fluently and had designed radio equipment that worked better than anything in the official military inventory. Dr. Ben Carter had become something like a legend among the human resistance. His laboratory in the abandoned subway tunnels beneath New York had produced weapons and technology that made alien commanders question everything they knew about primitive species. Ben would look at a piece of alien equipment for a few minutes, then build something better using materials scrounged from demolished buildings and broken vehicles. His latest creation was a personal shield generator that used alien energy principles, but was powered by modified car batteries. The device could stop alien energy weapons and had been built from parts that cost less than $50 before the war. Alien engineers who captured these devices spent weeks trying to understand how they worked, only to discover that the human improvements were so elegant they made the original alien technology seem clunky and inefficient. Dr. Nina Rodriguez had established a research center in the Appalachian Mountains where human scientists worked around the clock to understand alien technology. What they discovered challenged every assumption about learning and intelligence. Human researchers were not just copying alien devices, they were understanding the underlying principles and then improving them in ways that often surpassed the original creators. Nina herself had made breakthroughs in faster-than-light communication that allowed human resistance cells to coordinate across continents in real time. The aliens had similar technology, but theirs required massive installations and enormous amounts of power. Nina had figured out how to do the same thing with equipment that fit in a backpack and ran on solar panels. The most disturbing reports for the aliens came from Colonel Steve Baker, who had been captured during a raid on an alien supply depot. During his 3 weeks in captivity, Steve had not only learned the alien language, but had also convinced 6 of his guards to defect to the human side. The aliens who switched sides reported that humans were somehow more interesting to talk to than their own species. Human conversations sparked ideas and insights that aliens had never experienced before. When Steve escaped, he brought with him detailed intelligence about alien military structures and a group of alien defectors who became some of humanity's most valuable allies. These aliens reported that human prisoners were having strange effects on their captors. Guards who spent time around humans began questioning orders and thinking in ways that their species had never encouraged. Some aliens were even requesting assignment to human detention facilities because they found the experience mentally stimulating. War. Commander Thexval received increasingly desperate reports from his field commanders. The human resistance was not following any known patterns of guerrilla warfare. They were inventing new tactics faster than alien strategists could counter them. Human soldiers were learning to predict alien movements with accuracy that seemed impossible. Human pilots were outflying species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The most troubling development was how quickly humans were adapting physically to alien environments. Sergeant Amy Clark had spent 2 months behind enemy lines on an alien supply world where the atmosphere should have killed her in hours. Instead, she had not only survived, but had thrived. When she returned to Earth, doctors found that her blood chemistry had changed in ways that made her more resistant to alien weapons and better able to process alien food sources. Her lieutenant, Chris Murphy, had gone even further. During a raid on an alien research facility, he had somehow interfaced directly with alien computer systems, using nothing but his hands and concentration. The aliens who witnessed this reported that Murphy had accessed their databases faster than their own. Technicians could and had downloaded information that gave the human resistance crucial intelligence about upcoming alien operations. These physical adaptations were spreading through the human population at rates that violated everything known about evolution and biology. Humans exposed to alien technology were developing enhanced reflexes and improved pattern recognition abilities. Children born during the war showed remarkable resistance to alien diseases and seemed to have an intuitive understanding of alien technology that took their parents months to acquire. The Zelkarian High Command had called for reinforcements twice, but the additional ships only made the problem worse. More aliens meant more technology for humans to study and reverse engineer. More alien personnel meant more potential defectors who found human society more intellectually stimulating than their rigid military hierarchy. Reports were coming in from other parts of the galaxy about the impossible war on Earth. Species that had never shown interest in galactic politics were sending observers to study the conflict. The idea that a primitive world could not only resist but actually improve upon the technology of an advanced galactic empire was spreading through interstellar communication networks and causing profound disruptions in established power structures. Some alien species were quietly beginning to study human methods and applying them to their own societies. Others were demanding that the Galactic Council intervene to prevent the spread of what they called human contamination. The war that was supposed to be a simple conquest had become a galaxy-wide crisis that threatened to overturn thousands of years of established galactic civilization. As the 6th-month anniversary of first contact approached, Thexval realized that his empire was no longer fighting to conquer Earth, but was struggling to survive contact with humanity. The species that should have been enslaved or destroyed was instead transforming everything it touched, and the changes were spreading far beyond the boundaries of a single small planet. 1 year after the first alien ships appeared in Earth's skies, Captain Dan Foster stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar warship and watched alien homeworlds burn in the distance. The ship beneath his feet was built from human ingenuity and captured alien technology, but it surpassed anything either species had created alone. His crew had taken the war to the enemy, and the results were shocking the entire galaxy. The vessel had been constructed in the hidden shipyards beneath the Pacific Ocean, where human engineers worked alongside alien defectors to create something entirely new. Ellen Price served as navigator and had developed faster-than-light travel methods that cut journey times between star systems from months to days. Her techniques used principles that alien scientists claimed were impossible but worked flawlessly. In practice, Tony Rivera ran the engineering department with a mixture of human creativity and alien precision that produced miracles on a daily basis. His power systems generated more energy than ships twice the size, while his weapon arrays could penetrate alien shields that had protected their fleets for centuries. Most impressive of all, his modifications could be installed and maintained by crews with basic training using tools that cost almost nothing to manufacture. President Kate Johnson addressed the world from her underground command center and announced that humanity would no longer simply defend Earth but would carry the fight to those who had attacked them. The speech was broadcast not just to human populations but to every alien world within 100 light years. The message was simple but revolutionary. Humanity offered friendship to those who wanted peace and promised swift defeat to those who continued aggressive actions. The first human counter attacks targeted alien supply bases and communication networks with precision that stunned enemy commanders. Admiral Luke Harrison led the newly constructed Earth defense fleet using strategies that combined human unpredictability with alien technology in ways that created tactical advantages neither side had possessed separately. His forces moved through alien space like ghosts, appearing where they were least expected and disappearing before enemy reinforcements could respond. Captain Grace Martinez commanded the flagship during the assault on the Zalcarian military headquarters. At Proxima Base, her ship arrived through a hyperspace route that aliens insisted did not exist and destroyed the base's defenses before anyone realized they were under attack. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with complete human victory and the capture of the entire alien command structure, including War Commander Dexval himself. The most shocking aspect of the battle was what happened after the fighting ended. Instead of executing their prisoners or demanding unconditional surrender, the humans offered the defeated aliens a choice. They could return to their empire and continue the war, or they could join the human alliance and help build something better than either species could create alone. More than half of the captured aliens chose to defect immediately. General Rick Thompson coordinated ground operations on alien worlds with tactics that left enemy strategists completely baffled. His forces would arrive on heavily defended planets, and within days would have local populations requesting human protection from their own governments. Thompson's secret was simple but revolutionary. Instead of conquering alien civilians, he offered them technology, education, and opportunities that their own leaders had never provided. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, human advisors helped alien workers increase production efficiency by 300% while reducing working hours and improving safety conditions. The planet's government tried to resist these changes, but found their own population siding with the human invaders who offered better lives than their own species had ever provided. Dr. Helen Brooks made the discovery that changed everything when she realized that human adaptability was not just mental or technological, but was actually triggering evolutionary changes in other species. Aliens who worked closely with humans began developing enhanced problem-solving abilities and increased creativity. Some alien defectors were showing cognitive improvements that their own species had never achieved in millions of years of evolution. Intelligence. Officer Sam Taylor reported that human Special Forces operatives had successfully infiltrated 12 different alien societies and were operating as trusted members of their communities. These agents were not using disguises or advanced technology, but were simply so effective at understanding and adapting to alien cultures that they became indistinguishable from natives within months of arrival. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just winning a war, but was fundamentally changing what it meant to be intelligent life in the universe. Every species that came into contact with humans emerged from the experience more capable and more creative than they had been before. The rigid hierarchical structures that had dominated galactic civilization for millennia were crumbling as species discovered new ways of thinking and organizing themselves. The Zalcarian Empire found itself fighting a war on dozens of fronts, as their own subject worlds began demanding the kind of freedoms and opportunities that humans offered. Alien populations that had been docile for generations suddenly began questioning their governments and demanding explanations for why their lives were so much harder than what they saw in human-controlled territories. War Commander Dexval spent his captivity in deep conversations with human philosophers and scientists, and emerged from the experience a completely changed being. He announced that he was switching sides and offered to help humanity establish peaceful contact with other galactic civilizations. His defection was broadcast throughout Zalcarian space and triggered a wave of surrenders that effectively ended organized alien resistance. The war that had begun with alien ships darkening Earth's skies was ending with human ships bringing light and hope to worlds that had known only oppression and stagnation. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years were working together on projects that seemed impossible just months earlier. The galaxy was discovering that cooperation was more powerful than conquest and that diversity of thought was more valuable than uniformity of purpose. As reports of human activities spread through interstellar communication networks, other civilizations began sending ambassadors to Earth not to negotiate surrender but to request alliance and cooperation. The species that had been marked for conquest was now being courted by powers that spanned multiple star systems and controlled resources beyond imagination. The transformation was complete, but it was only the beginning. Humanity had proven that intelligence was not limited by biology or history, but could grow and adapt in ways that benefited everyone. The galaxy would never be the same. 2 years had passed since the first alien invasion, and the galaxy watched in amazement as humanity accomplished something that had never been seen before in recorded galactic history. Instead of destroying their enemies, humans had somehow transformed them into allies, and the results were revolutionizing civilization on hundreds of worlds across dozens of star systems. President Kate Johnson stood before the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Hall on Luna and delivered a speech that would be remembered for thousands of years. She announced the formation of the Human Alliance, but explained that membership was open to any species that shared humanity's commitment to cooperation, growth, and the improvement of all intelligent life. The alliance already included former enemies who had become some of humanity's strongest supporters. Dr. Mike Patterson worked in research facilities that brought together the brightest minds from 17 different species, and the results were beyond anything any single civilization had ever achieved. His team had developed medical technologies that could cure diseases that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. They had created energy systems that provided unlimited clean power to entire star systems. Most remarkably, they had figured out how to accelerate the evolution of intelligence itself. His research partner, Dr. Carol Wright, had established first contact with dozens of previously unknown species and had discovered that the galaxy contained far more intelligent life than anyone had realized. Many of these species had been overlooked by the major galactic powers because they did not fit traditional definitions of advancement. Under human guidance, these forgotten civilizations were making contributions to galactic knowledge that surpassed anything the established powers had produced. The most dramatic example was the crystalline entities of Vega Prime, who communicated through harmonic frequencies and had been dismissed as non-intelligent by previous explorers. Carol's team developed translation methods that revealed these beings possessed mathematical understanding that solved problems human and alien scientists had been working on for centuries. Within months of first contact, the Vega entities were collaborating on projects that were advancing physics and engineering at unprecedented rates. Ambassador Paul Jenkins negotiated humanity's entry into the Galactic Council, but the terms were unlike any previous membership agreement. Instead of accepting junior status and following established protocols, humanity demanded the right to propose fundamental changes to how galactic civilization operated. The old powers initially resisted but found themselves surrounded by dozens of species that supported the human position. The transformation was most visible in the former Zalcarian territories, where human advisors had replaced military governors, with elected representatives chosen by local populations. Production efficiency had increased by orders of magnitude while working conditions improved dramatically and personal freedoms expanded beyond anything these worlds had ever experienced. Most shocking of all, crime rates had dropped to nearly zero as populations discovered they could achieve more through cooperation than they ever could through competition or conflict. Admiral Sarah Bell commanded the first truly integrated galactic fleet where humans and aliens from dozens of species worked together as equals. Her ships explored regions of space that had been considered too dangerous or too remote for investigation and made discoveries that expanded the known galaxy by thousands of star systems. The fleet operated on principles of shared command and collective decision-making that produced better results than the rigid hierarchies that had dominated galactic military forces for millions of years, the revelation that shocked even humanity's supporters came from the work of Dr. Max Roberts and his colleague Dr. Tina Lopez, who had been studying the long-term effects of human contact on other species. What they discovered changed everything that galactic civilization had believed about intelligence evolution and the nature of consciousness itself. Species that worked closely with humans were not just learning human techniques or adopting human technologies. They were actually becoming more intelligent, more creative, and more capable than their biology should have allowed. Alien individuals who spent significant time in human environments showed measurable increases in cognitive ability, problem-solving skills, and emotional intelligence that persisted even when they returned to their homeworlds. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just sharing knowledge or technology, but was somehow catalyzing the development of intelligence itself. Contact with humans triggered evolutionary changes that occurred over months and years rather than the millions of years that biological evolution normally required. Every species that worked with humans emerged from the experience fundamentally improved. The Galactic Council commissioned independent studies by species that had never had contact with humans, and the results confirmed what Dr. Roberts and Dr. Lopez had discovered. Humanity possessed some quality that enhanced the intelligence and capabilities of other species through simple proximity and interaction. The effect was most pronounced in individuals who worked closely with humans, but even brief contact produced measurable improvements that lasted for years. Former War Commander Thexville had become one of humanity's most effective ambassadors, and his transformation illustrated the phenomenon perfectly. The rigid military officer who had arrived to conquer Earth had evolved into a philosopher and diplomat whose insights into interspecies cooperation were revolutionizing galactic politics. His former subordinates reported that he had become more intelligent, more creative, and more emotionally sophisticated than any member of his species in recorded history. The discovery triggered a galaxy-wide debate about the nature of intelligence and consciousness. Traditional scientific understanding suggested that cognitive ability was limited by biology and could only change through evolutionary processes that took millions of years. Humanity's effect on other species violated these assumptions and forced scientists to develop entirely new theories about how intelligence actually worked. Some species demanded immediate access to human advisors and teachers, claiming that cooperation with humanity was essential for their continued development. Others feared that human influence would fundamentally change their cultures and identities in ways that might destroy what made them unique. A few aggressive civilizations viewed humanity's transformative effects as a form of conquest more dangerous than traditional military occupation. The debates raged in the Galactic Council for months, but the practical results were impossible to ignore. Worlds that worked with humans showed dramatic improvements in technology, quality of life, and social organization. Species that maintained isolation remained static, while their neighbors advanced at incredible speeds. The choice facing galactic civilization was simple but profound: embrace humanity's transformative influence and grow beyond previous limitations, or resist change and fall behind civilizations that were evolving at unprecedented rates. As the second anniversary of first contact approached, it became clear that the alien invasion of Earth had triggered changes that extended far beyond a single war between two species. Humanity had introduced something entirely new to galactic civilization, and the effects were spreading through interstellar society, like ripples from a stone thrown into still water. The galaxy was discovering that intelligence was not a fixed quantity but could grow and develop in ways that benefited everyone willing to embrace the possibilities that cooperation and diversity could create. 5 years after the first alien ships had darkened Earth's skies, the galaxy had become something that no species could have imagined possible. Director Frank Davis stood in the center of the Galactic Advancement Initiative headquarters on Titan and watched representatives from over 200 different species work together. on projects that were reshaping civilization across thousands of star systems. The facility itself, demonstratd how far galactic society had evolved. Built using principles from dozens of different architectural traditions and powered by energy systems that combined the best ideas from scores of species. The complex was more than just a building. It was a living symbol of what intelligent life could accomplish when diversity was viewed as strength rather than weakness, and when cooperation replaced competition as the driving force of progress. Captain Julie Miller commanded the starship Unity, which carried the first truly integrated crew to achieve breakthrough velocities that made travel between distant galaxies possible in days rather than millennia. Her science officer was Vexwell, the former Zelkarian commander whose transformation from conqueror to explorer had inspired similar changes throughout his species. The ship's chief engineer Bob Anderson worked alongside crystalline entities from Vega, prime silicon-based life forms from the Rigel system, and energy beings from the galactic core whose combined knowledge had revolutionized faster than light travel. Medical officer Dr. Linda Garcia had pioneered treatment methods that worked effectively on biological forms so diverse that previous medical science had considered treating them impossible. Her techniques combined human adaptability with alien precision and energy-based healing methods that could restore health to species that had never before been able to help each other. The medical advances developed aboard Unity were being transmitted to every inhabited world in the known galaxy and were eliminating diseases and genetic disorders that had plagued civilizations for millions of years. The transformation extended far beyond technology and medicine. General Gary White led the Galactic Peace Corps, which responded to conflicts not with military force but with understanding and integration techniques that had ended 17 major wars without a single battle being fought. His methods involved bringing opposing sides together in environments that encouraged cooperation and shared problem-solving rather than competition and domination. Colonel Rose Jackson oversaw programs that had eliminated slavery and oppression from entire star systems by offering former masters and slaves alike opportunities to work together on projects that benefited everyone involved. The economic systems that emerged from these transformations were more productive and more satisfying than anything either group had experienced under the old arrangements of exploitation and control. The changes were most dramatic in the former territories of aggressive empires that had once terrorized their neighbors. The Zelkarian Empire had become the Zelkarian Cooperative, where decisions were made through consensus rather than command and where individual creativity was valued more highly than blind obedience. Production efficiency had increased by factors that seemed impossible while working conditions improved beyond anything the species had previously experienced. Similar transformations had occurred throughout the galaxy as species after species discovered that cooperation produced better results than conquest, and that diversity of thought was more valuable than uniformity of purpose. The rigid caste systems and hereditary hierarchies that had dominated galactic politics for eons had given way to fluid social structures that allowed individuals to contribute according to their abilities and interests rather than their birth circumstances. Ambassador Nancy Adams addressed the Galactic Assembly from a podium that floated in the center of a spherical chamber where representatives from hundreds of worlds could participate as equals regardless of their physical forms or communication methods. Her speech was simultaneously translated into thousands of languages and broadcast to every inhabited world in the known galaxy. She spoke about the journey that had brought galactic civilization to this point and acknowledged that the process had not always been smooth or easy. Many species had initially resisted human influence, fearing that cooperation with humanity would destroy their unique cultures and traditions. Others had worried that the rapid changes humanity catalyzed would destabilize their societies and create chaos that would be worse than their previous problems. These fears had proved groundless as species after species discovered that working with humans enhanced rather than diminished their distinctive qualities. Cultures became richer and more complex rather than homogenized, and traditions evolved and strengthened rather than disappearing. The galaxy had become more diverse, not less diverse, as cooperation replaced competition and mutual support replaced exploitation. The most remarkable discovery had been that humanity's transformative effects were not limited to other species but worked in reverse as well. Humans who lived and worked closely with aliens developed capabilities and insights that pure human society had never produced. The exchange of ideas and perspectives had created a feedback loop of improvement that was accelerating the development of all participating species at rates that continued to surprise even the scientists who studied the phenomenon. Children born in the new integrated communities showed cognitive abilities that surpassed their parents, regardless of species, and demonstrated an intuitive understanding of cooperation and mutual support that gave hope for an even brighter future. These young beings thought in ways that transcended the limitations that had previously defined intelligent life and approached problems with creativity and insight that promised solutions to challenges that had seemed insurmountable. The gathering in the assembly represented species that had been enemies for thousands of years, but were now working together on projects that seemed impossible just decades before. Former slave masters collaborated with their former victims to design economic systems that benefited everyone. Ancient enemies shared resources and knowledge to solve problems that affected entire star systems. Species that had never been able to communicate directly were developing new forms of understanding that transcended the barriers of biology and physics. As Nancy Adams concluded her speech, she reflected on the journey that had brought the galaxy to this point. The aliens who had tried to conquer humanity had discovered something that shocked not just their own species but every intelligent civilization in the known universe. Humans did not just resist domination, they transformed it into cooperation, and in doing so had revealed possibilities that no species had imagined could exist. The attempted conquest of Earth had become the catalyst for the greatest transformation in galactic history. The species that should have been enslaved or destroyed had instead elevated every civilization it encountered to new heights of achievement and understanding. The galaxy had learned that the greatest weapon was not technology or military force, but the fundamental belief that everyone and everything could become better than they were before. The new galaxy that emerged from humanity's transformative influence was more peaceful, more prosperous, and more creative than anything previous civilizations had achieved. It was a place where diversity was celebrated rather than feared, where cooperation was valued more than conquest, and where the potential for growth and improvement was limited only by the imagination and determination of those willing to work together toward common goals.